Hey, what's up YouTubers? Red Crimson 102 here. Today I've got a special treat for you. We're going to talk about this bad boy right here. For those of you that's not familiar with this device, this is the Asus ROG Ally. It's similar to the Steamdeck, and I'm going to be talking about my personal feelings about this thing, my personal thoughts, and you can say my own personal review as well. So basically my personal thoughts and my review about this bad boy right here. Now let's go on and get into it. Now this thing, I wasn't, even with the Steam Deck, I wasn't a believer of the whole replacing your desktop type thing, because no matter what, a handheld would never be better than a computer. It just doesn't make sense logically. But this thing is installed with Windows 11, and they do a good job of creating the desktop experience. This thing gives you the true desktop experience. Anything you can do with a PC, pretty much you can do it with this handheld, just like a desktop, and I like that. The screen, as I've said many times, is the best thing about this system, and coming from the Steam Deck is a big step up. The screen on the Steam Deck was trash. It was the cheapest screen Valve could ever use, and the touch screen was real bad on there. Most of the time your presses wouldn't register, and the screen just felt weird. It felt like it wasn't even a touch screen, a real touch screen. But this right here is very intuitive. It's a 10-point touchscreen. It feels just like a cell phone when you're touching the screen. Everything is so responsive. See, this screen is so responsive to your touch, just like a cell phone. You can download emulators a lot easier on this platform without the hassle like the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck, I believe, was really hard to even download emulators on there, so I didn't even bother doing that. But with this thing right here, man, it's like you want to try everything. I'm familiar with Windows. I'm still on Windows 10 on my PC, but I'm familiar with Windows, and I know how to download all my games, where to go to download my games, where to go to download my emulators, and anything. It doesn't have to be emulators, just anything in general. And once downloaded, I know exactly where my content will go, and it's the same thing with this device right here. Same exact thing. I even have my VPN set up on here. See, it's just like a computer. Same thing. Set up just like a computer, just like Windows. And that right there is impressive. This gives you the true desktop experience. The Steam Deck doesn't. And I don't want to sound like I'm bashing the Steam Deck here, and I'm trying not to compare it, but it's kind of hard not to compare it because they're in the same realm. They do the same things. Now, the D-pad on here is really good. The buttons is okay. It's not the best, but I don't have any problems with it. The buttons are seems kind of flat to me, but I have no issues with the face buttons. They're okay. The D-pad is great. The analog sticks, however, are pretty bad. They just feel all over the place. They feel very loose. As you can see right here, how I'm moving them, they feel very loose. I do like the LED lights around the analogs, which is pretty cool. My favorite part as far as controls go are the shoulder buttons. I love how the shoulder buttons feel. The shoulder buttons are miles better than the shoulder buttons on the Steam Deck for sure. I love the shoulder buttons. And you have your SD card slot right here, your volume rocker up and down, and your power button. And there's also, I believe this is the power button here is a fingerprint reader as well. I never really tried it, but I just use a standard password like I have set up on my computer. And my thoughts on this system, I put it through the ringer, guys. This is like my third day with the system, and I put it through the ringer. Well, should I say almost through the ringer, but just about. I put it through the ringer. And I guess the most difficult thing for me was, or rather a hassle, was the boot up. When you start the system up, actually it's just like the Steam Deck. I had to actually literally plug it in the wall to get it to turn on. And then once I plug it in, the system read that the adapter was attached to it. It came on. And after that, you don't need an adapter anymore. And speaking about adapter, it comes with a 65 watt adapter. That's a lot higher than the Steam Deck's adapter. I believe the Steam Deck adapter is 45 watts. But either way, this thing charges super fast, ridiculously fast. It's amazing at how fast it charges. I'm talking, guys, you can charge this thing up, I don't even know, man, within like an hour or so, this thing would be at full charge. No problem. I love the design on here. The design is sleek, beautiful, and sexy. And it's a lot lighter than the Steam Deck. And this thing just screams quality. Just the look of this console alone, you don't even want to go back to your Steam Deck. I didn't want to go back to my Steam Deck just of how gorgeous the whole console looks. It looks sleek, man, and it's futuristic. I love the design, and it's smaller than the Steam Deck, but you still can't fit it in your pocket. Just like you can't fit the Steam Deck in your pocket. So a lot of positives here, and let's get back to turning the system on out of the box. First, once you cut the system on, the boot up was kind of a long process because you had to go through Windows, you had to set everything up. If you already have information on Windows, I guess it's a lot speedier because you can just input your information and just go for it. But if not, you have to set up a whole new, your information for Windows. On the boot up, go to your email, verify some stuff. Then it's going to ask you to download some updates. So you'll be bombarded with updates when you first cut the system on, as an addition to signing in or signing up for Windows. Then you have to go into ASUS's own operating system called Armor Crate, which is separate from the Windows. They work in conjunction, but it's still separated, if that makes sense. Kind of like how Steam Deck has their own operating system and they have Proton. So you have the Armor Crate, and that's where like you see your game library or your third-party apps you have downloaded, like for example, this is Armor Crate right here. I'll show you guys. That's Armor Crate. This is ASUS, Subbase. So you have your game library right here. You have the Xbox app, Game Pass, you have Steam. So EA, for example, so whatever, if you download GOG, Steam, or whatever, this is going to come right here. But actually, Xbox Game Pass comes pre-installed and Steam comes pre-installed. So I guess, ASUS and Windows know that, hey, you know what, those are the two main, digital platforms that people game on, which was cool. It saved me the trouble of even downloading it. So that was a good thing. So ASUS Armor Crate, you have to go through a series of updates with them, with the drivers and the BIOS or whatever. And then once that's all set up, then you're good to go. So the whole initial setup might take you, I can't even, maybe if you don't know what you're doing, it can take you up to at least probably an hour, man. But other than that, if you know what you're doing, you boot right into Windows. If you already have your information, it might take you a little bit less than an hour, but I'll just go ahead and say, off an estimate, it's going to take you at least an hour and maybe some change just to get it set up. So a little bit over an hour just to get everything set up, or at least, an hour, tops. And let's talk about some more positives. The games on here run pretty well. I kind of had no issues per se running the games. I did connect it to the TV. It looks really good on the TV, actually. I think it looks better than the Steam Deck, actually, when connected to the TV. I was blown away by the performance when I connected to the TV. I was playing Gears of War at 90 FPS, man. It felt pretty smooth, man. It was really, really great. I was impressed by the frame rate and the gameplay while this thing was connected to the TV. And World War Z was one of the first games I played on there. That game is so dope. I played Gears on the TV. It connected to the TV, and I actually used my Steamdeck dock. So for those of you that want to know if you can use your Steamdeck dock for this thing, yes you can. You can actually use your Steamdeck dock and stream this to the TV. It plays dope on the TV, just like a console, maybe a little bit better because I was running games at 90 FPS. But then again, Gears of War is an old game, so I can imagine that game could run at 90 FPS and 120 FPS. Well, I'm not sure about 120 FPS, but surprisingly though, some games didn't really work, didn't really play well, I should say. Like for example, I was playing Quantum Break. Quantum Break, I really couldn't hit 60 FPS. It was hovering around like 30, 40, in the 40s, in the 50s, and it was dropping frames like in the 40s and 50s. And that was surprising because that game runs pretty smooth at 60 FPS on the Steam Deck. So Quantum Break actually runs better on the Steam Deck. So what I'm saying is there are some games that run better on the Steam Deck versus the ROG Ally, which is kind of surprising. So that just goes to show me that this and most of those PC handhelds, man, it just put together sloppily. They're just trying to cram a PC into a handheld, without having like an operating system to run those games efficiently. And that's one thing I do like with the Steam Deck over the ROG Ally is the operating system, the Proton for the Steam Deck, man, is a godsend because of Proton, you're able to run those AAA games nice and smooth with efficient battery life. And the battery life is what I want to save for last. But to be fair, I got my Steam Deck when it was available to, actually like when it was available to the masses. You were able to order it and get it with no problem. And I heard the issues that Steam Deck had, before launch. The people that had it before launch, they said they had a lot of problems. And I remember when I finally got my hands on the Steam Deck, a lot of games wouldn't play at all, or the controls wouldn't work. But the Steam Deck been out for like what, a year and a half now, and we have gotten a lot of updates that made the Steam Deck a force to reckon with. The Steam Deck has gotten so many updates that the games run super smooth now. You can play most of your library with the operating system recognizing that you're using a controller or the face buttons on the Steam Deck itself. I never really ran into that problem with the ROG Ally yet. I haven't tried a lot of games on there, but most of the games I've tried on there, it worked out of the box with the controller, no problem. But some games ran a lot better on the Steam Deck, which I kind of didn't understand. But the system is still fairly new, the Ally, so I guess that's to be expected. So if Asus really care about this thing, I expect to see lots more future updates where they make the software better. Now, let's talk about some negatives. The negatives, well, I already spoke about the analogs. The analog sticks are terrible on here. I wish I could actually open it up and replace them with better analog sticks. I think the analog sticks are far better on the Steam Deck than it is on here. If I can put a Steam Deck analogs on here, that'd be cool. The SD card, whoa, that was so crazy, guys. The SD card was a bitch. Like, when you put the SD card in, yes, Windows will read that you have a secondary memory format in there, but the catch is you can't use it. I actually had to go on YouTube and find a tutorial on how to let it work. And if you look on YouTube, a lot of people would say they have the same problem with the ROG Ally getting a memory card to work. I have a 512 gigabyte Samsung SD card in there, and what I found out you had to do, you basically had to go into settings and you had to format you have to right click and format your SD card several times actually. You know, it reads exFAT, NFTS, I forgot. But you pretty much what you do is you go into settings, you format your SD card, and you restart the system and reboot it so the ROG Ally can read it. And the funny thing is, when I did that, it came up as a secondary memory, but I still couldn't download games. So when I went on the Game Pass app, it'll say you still can't download games to the SD card. And I left it alone. Then I went back, and then all of a sudden I can download my games. So it was weird. So you pretty much have to reformat the SD card several times in order for your ROG Ally to actually read the SD card. It was weird, it was tedious, it was very frustrating. It was actually kind of making me upset. I'm like, wow, because the system has 512 gigs onboard memory, but in all actuality you have less than that because you have bloatware already on the console. You know, Spotify is on there, you know, Windows Essentials is on there, you know, like Word, and you know, it comes with its own Microsoft bloatware on there, and I'm pretty sure ASUS have their own bloatware in there as well. So with those two combined, you actually have less than 512 gigs. I can't remember offhand how much you have to play with, but I'm actually glad that I finally got my SD card to work. So remember, guys, when you get this system, keep that in mind. The SD card is going to give you a problem. So you have to go into settings, reformat your SD card, and once it shows up in my PC next to the C drive, you reformat it right there again, and then you just name it whatever, S drive, A drive, and just label it games. Restart your system. You have to restart it a couple of times, and after a while Windows will eventually read the memory card. So now I have all these games on there. And I've also seen people replace the SSD drive that's in the ROG Ally with a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte. I think I just may do that. So yeah, so the games ran pretty smooth on here. I got the emulators on here with no problem. I have a video on my channel where I'm playing Zelda. I got Zelda Breath of the Wild on there with no issues. Yes, I dumped my own cartridge onto the system, but this thing, man, as far as a PC in your hand, this is it right here. The Steamdeck was a lie as far as replacing a desktop. No, I see this replacing a desktop because it acts just like a PC. You can do everything you can do in a PC. The smooth transition of downloading and going on websites was fantastic on this device, and the internet is so fast, so smooth and snappy, just like on your cell phone, just like on a PC rather. So they finally managed to get a full-fledged PC in here that acts like a PC and operates like a PC with no issues. YouTube and everything works. This thing is really amazing. It's a really amazing piece of hardware. So what I recommend Asus and Microsoft do with this, they have to come out with an update, a huge software fix that has a better overlay operating system dedicated to the games, where Windows and Asus, the Armor Crate, isn't conflicting with each other. You know, have the option to like just boot straight into, you know, boot straight into the Armor Crate, an improved version of Armor Crate where, you know, like the game just runs smooth and efficiently, to utilize the battery where you can get more juice. And I'm gonna just finish off by saying this, guys. The battery life on this thing is beyond terrible, and that's the downer. The battery life is what defeats the purpose of this being a handheld. And if you look on some YouTube, if you look up some YouTube videos, you see a lot of people have their ROG Ally connected with the adapter. This thing, you do not want to leave next to this. You don't want to leave a socket with this thing. Once you take it off the charger, that's it for you. The battery's going to die. Listen, man, honestly, guys, I was getting like 30 to 40 minutes of playtime, and I felt like I got less than that. It eats up so much battery. And let's go in here. Okay, this is the part of the armor crate settings right here. See right here, your base resolution is 720p, and you can limit the frame rate to I think I'm not sure, 40. Let's see, 15, 30, 45, 60. Okay, cool. And then you have the your 120 hertz refresh rate. You can turn it off and turn it to 60. I haven't really played in the 120 hertz games. I haven't been able to hit 120 hertz, and even at 30 watts, which is the highest this console goes, on a lot of games I was still only getting 40 FPS. Like, honestly, 40 FPS. I wasn't even hitting 60 in some games, but most of the games, wow, I was hovering between 45 in the 50s. And don't get me wrong, guys, man, don't believe the hype. This thing still drops frames just like the Steam Deck, but I would say less. But one thing about the Steam Deck, if you hit 60, you're at 60. With this, if you hit 60, it'll drop frames on you. So I still think the Steam Deck runs a lot of games better than the ROG Ally. But the difference between the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck, the ROG Ally, you can actually hit higher frames in most of your games. Yeah, so that's what I got. That's what I have to say, man. Just Microsoft, Asus, if you're listening, man, just come out with an update, a fix where somehow we're able to get at least 3 hours, man. At least 3 hours playing any or most AAA games. At least 3. Because this thing only gives you 40 minutes to an hour of battery life. I don't think I've ever gotten an hour. Like I said, it'll go anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. So you're looking at 30 minutes, 40 minutes to an hour. Within that bracket, 30 to an hour. That's all you get, and that's lousy for a handheld. This is not even a handheld. This is pretty much like a console, to be honest with you, because the only way you're going to enjoy this thing is if you have it connected to a charger. So that defeats the whole purpose. So as far as like this being better than the Steam Deck, depends on how you look at it. I think the Steam Deck is actually still, wow, it's tough, man. Better, man, because it's better. Steam Deck is still better because you get longer battery life with the Steam Deck. And even if you're playing like a old AAA game, like for example, I'm still playing games like Darksiders and stuff like that. If you're playing like older AAA games, like from last generation, 360, Xbox One, PS4, yeah, the battery life is pretty up. You get like 2.5, 3 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes to be exact with a Steam Deck. But this thing you only get an hour. If you're playing lesser games on the Steam Deck, you can get up to like 3. Yeah, well, you know, I said it, 3.5, 2.5 hours. This thing you only get like an hour, 40 minutes, an hour, sometimes 40 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes. 40 minutes, 40 minutes to an hour. That's lousy. They have to find a way to make this console be able to use the battery more efficiently and at least get 3.5 hours, man. Even when the Switch first came out, you know, the max you would get was 3.5, especially play with Zelda, and you know, Zelda suck up a lot of energy. And I've seen comments where people are saying this is as good as the battery you're going to get for these handheld PCs until they come up with some kind of super battery or whatever. I also think they should use a bigger battery for this system, honestly. It uses the same battery size as the Steam Deck. They should have went for the biggest battery they could find. It would be cool if they had an attachment to it where you can just put like a battery bank on it, but then the system would be bulky. But you know what's so funny? To the guy who wrote a comment about this is as good as a battery gonna get an hour for this PC handheld. See, that's the thing. Nintendo, I believe, is gonna get that right with the Switch too. Because if you look back at the Switch, which started this handheld hybrid thing, you were getting like 3.5 hours more with like indie games or less caliber games. And the Switch in its time was the best handheld device out there, powerful. Not even cell phones could keep up with it. You know what I'm saying? That was like some years back, maybe like 5-6 years ago, you know what I'm saying? But when looking at these PC handhelds, Nintendo has been doing it right this whole time. Instead of trying to cram a PC on here and just expect everything to work, what Nintendo does, they make their own operating system, which forces developers to take AAA games and reconstruct it into Nintendo's operating system where the battery is efficient. That's why we're able to get 3.5 hours, even 5 hours with an OLED switch. You can get more than 5 hours with the OLED switch. So I believe if Nintendo comes out with a Switch 2 and is as powerful as the ROG Strix, is as powerful as the ROG Ally, or in between the Steam Deck, Nintendo would be able to run all these AAA games, I believe, 3.5 plus hours because of the operating system and the way how to design their games. These games aren't designed to really run efficiently on this handheld. It's just basically a cram PC in your handheld. And in theory, it sounds cool, but in reality, it's a bad idea because of the battery life. So I do tip my hat off to Steam Deck when I look back, because Steam Deck actually have an operating system. Their operating system, Proton, allow AAA games to run efficiently with the battery. So that was brilliant. So that's what Windows and Asus need to do with this platform right here. Come out with an update to efficiently, make the games run on there to use up less power as possible. Armor Crate is its own thing, which is a good start. So if they can find a way to have Armor Crate pretty much turn everything off, turn Windows off, turn everything off, and let it run like an actual console. Just focus on the games, similar to how the Nintendo Switch just focus on games and nothing else. No internet, no nothing. That's what Armor Crate should be, where it turns everything off, turns window off, and save all their juice and power and direct everything into running the games efficiently, where we can get 3.5 plus hours for the ROG Ally. And I believe they can do that. Since I've been sitting here, it's at 94% from 100, and that's 26 minutes in recording this video. So yeah, that's about it, man. I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube about a ROG Ally, man. I mean, prior to launch, after launch, and right now, and they're pretty amazing videos out there on the ROG Ally. So I just thought I'd add my 2 cents in and my own review and my own thoughts about it, man. So final thoughts, man. It's a great handheld, has a lot of potential. I love the D-pad on there. Shoulder buttons is nice. The screen is a highlight. The games look so gorgeous on here, guys. It's just crazy how it looks so gorgeous. And I'll be doing some gameplay in my later videos, my next videos, so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, man, the only thing I have to say about this console is the battery life is terrible. Oh, and they also need to work on the sleep mode and the power off mode, man. That's kind of crazy. At first I didn't even know how to put it in sleep mode, but I figured it out. You just hit this button right here, hit the off and on button, and put it in hibernate, sleep mode. I don't even know what hibernate is, but you can shut it off right there. And also, if you go back to Windows, you can do the same thing, just like in Windows, just like on the PC. So yeah, man, battery life is what defeats this. You have to sit next to an outlet. So taking this thing on the plane is a no-go unless you have an outlet to plug it into. Switch is still my favorite handheld. I'm waiting for Nintendo to come out with a Switch 2. I believe they'll do it right. And I've seen some sources where the Switch 2 is going to be more powerful than the Steam Deck, way better than the Steam Deck, which makes sense because Nintendo's not going to wait 7 years to put out another Switch handheld that's less powerful or close to being powerful as the Steam Deck. That really doesn't make any sense logically, especially when they had an E3. They actually jumped out there and they said they were going to use DLSS, sampling to achieve 4K. So if that thing is using DLSS and you can push near 4K, that means it's going to be a powerful handheld. Weak hardware can't do 4K. or DLSS. That's just what it is. But we'll see what Nintendo do, man. But Nintendo's the one, I believe Nintendo's gonna be the one to get it right. So I haven't touched my Steam Deck since I've gotten this ROG Ally, and it makes sense because, you know, we all know when there's a newborn baby in the house, that you pay attention to the newborn baby the most, and that's all it is for right now. But man, I'm loving the screen, man. The screen makes such a big difference, and I don't know why Valve put a cheap screen on the Steam Deck, because that's the first thing I noticed about the Steam Deck, was the screen was very, very bad on it, very cheap. Even the screen on the regular Switch, I think, is better than the Steam Deck. But hey, you don't have to quote me on that. I'm just saying. And by the way, this is not an OLED screen. I think it's an LCD screen, but this is a damn good LCD screen. Imagine if they had used the OLED screen. But Steam Deck has nothing to worry about, regardless of the good reviews and feedback the ROG Ally has been getting. They're both the same thing, man. But if you care about battery life and you want to play AAA games on the go still, I would say go with the Steam Deck. This device is just for people who have money and you don't mind spending the money for this device. Well, here's a pretty piece of expensive device, but if you got the money for it, the money to burn, go for it. But just keep in mind, you have to keep this thing on a charger. But if you want a game on the go without worrying about the battery dying on you, I will stick with a Steam Deck, or I will get a Steam Deck. Alright guys, like and subscribe. RedCrimson102 out. Any questions? Leave them in the comment section.